that Fox News hosts and guests falsely claimed that Dominion helped break the election. Listen to this CNN legal analyst, Ellie Honig, on with Jake Tapper last night about what Fox News is headed for.
I would not want to be in a position of defending Fox here. I think they're headed for a full-blown journalistic and legal disaster. It is very difficult to successfully sue media outlets for defamation in this country. What we have to prove is what we call actual malice, meaning the statements were false and the defendant made those statements knowingly or with reckless disregard of the truth. Now, that's a very high bar, but here we have Fox's own text in black and white where they call the election fraud claims, and I quote, nuts, insane, BS. And so you contrast that with the things that Fox said on air, and I think Fox is in a very difficult position here.
And of course, a guy on CNN who's paid by CNN has got zero objectivity. There's no credibility to that analysis at all because Fox News would kill, or CNN would kill to have Fox News channels rated. Fox News out, more people watch Fox News than CNN and MSNBC combined. So there's a whole lot of schadenfreude going on. What's going to be interesting to me is that a number of the stars of Fox News, including Sean Hannity and Maria Bartiromo, have been called to testify. And I think this thing gets underway, I think in the next week or two. I could be mistaken, but that trial is about to be upon us. So just be prepared. There's a lot of people with agendas, a lot of people gunning for Fox News, a lot of Fox News haters who hope they will fail. I have a hunch that, well, they shouldn't hold their breath. This Fox News channel is not going to fail. Are they going to have a tricky legal situation? Time will tell. Coming up, turns out that Biden's White House was involved, apparently, in the raid on President Trump's Mar-a-Lago. Another action-packed hour straight ahead here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Gosh, I've been excited about Save the Storks. The mission for Save the Storks is to create baby-saving medical vehicles called stork buses. And as we have this abortion debate in America, and we have this road short, and again, we had a great debate on the podcast, the new No Interruptions podcast. It's available at MikeOnline.com. I want you to help support the stork buses. I'm asking you to sign up because these stork buses are state-of-the-art mobile medical clinics. On board, a woman can get a pregnancy test, an ultrasound, prenatal care, resources, and so much more. The compassion behind this is astounding. Sign up today because your gift of $35 a month will ensure that more women who are in an unplanned pregnancy are made aware of the choice for life for their babies and themselves. Support them today by going to SaveTheStorks.org/Mike G. Go to SaveTheStorks.org/Mike G. SaveTheStorks.org/Mike G. Obviously, inflation has consequences. As the Fed raises interest rates to combat out-of-control government spending, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. Depositors are holding their breath, and investors are bailing on the bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. You've got to diversify. The recent surge in gold prices shows why gold has historically been a great hedge against the stock market and against inflation, too. Well, there's one company I trust, I do business with, it's Birch Gold Group. I buy my gold from Birch because I want a safety net for me and my family. You can do the same. Just go to MikeForGold.com or text the keyword Mike to 989898 and we'll send you a free info kit on gold. Never any high pressure, no obligation. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k that's tied to a volatile market into an IRA in physical precious metals. Go to MikeForGold.com or text Mike to 989898. Claim your free info kit on gold today. Birch Gold Group. Text Mike to 90.
Hair loss is a normal part of life. Many things can cause it, such as stress, aging, and genetics. Zion Health has created something that you can include in your daily routine that will keep hair loss worries away. Hair Multiplier Serum is hair growth process by using patented hair growth ingredients Lycopil and Anagain to create visibly stronger and thicker hair. It takes a thorough approach to preventing thin, weak hair by adjusting the hair growth cycle, signaling more lengthening and strengthening and less time in the resting phase. Turmeric in particular helps to prevent an overproduction of DHT, a hormone that contributes to excessive hair loss. Use code RADIO to get your free bottle of Icy Hair with a purchase of one. That's a 2-month supply for $60, a $120 value. Head to ZionHealth.com. That's ZionHealth.com for a buy one, get one free promotion. ZionHealth.com, promo code RADIO. News, information, reassurance. 8:60 a.m. The Answer. WDRP San Francisco. Streaming now on smart speakers of the Odyssey app service of Salem Media Group.
News this hour from townhall.com. Consumer prices continued their march higher last month, although the rate of the increase slowed a bit. The Consumer Price Index gaining 0.1% month over month. That compared to a 0.4 increase January to February. Louisville, Kentucky police releasing body cam video from this week's deadly mass shooting at a downtown bank. Graphically illustrating what officers face during an active shooter situation.
I got him down! I think he's down! Get down! Now!
Deputy Police Chief Paul Humphrey says the officers provided exactly the response that was needed. Police say the gunman was a bank employee who legally purchased the gun that was used in the attack and that he targeted his victims. Another Republican one step closer to entering the 2024 presidential race.
Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina is out with a new video.
I'm announcing my exploratory committee for president
As a black man who overcame poverty and says liberal Democrats have weaponized race to divide the country. He blames President Biden and the radical left for choosing a culture of grievance. And Scott appeals to religious conservatives, promising to defend conservative values, including religious liberty and the right to life. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has filed suit against House Judiciary Committee Chairman Republican Jim Jordan. Bragg seeking to quash congressional oversight of his activities, including the indictment of former President Trump. Jordan says the former president was indicted for committing no crime. Watching Wall Street, stocks have turned mixed. Right now, the Dow is up 19 points, but the NASDAQ down 46 points, and the S&P 4 points in the red. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Tens of thousands affected by the toxic water at Camp Lejeune are left with death, cancer, Parkinson's, dementia, birth defects, and other serious illnesses. And along with the harm, so many worries.
My family drank the Camp Lejeune water. What if our health gets worse and we need more financial help?
How do I protect my VA benefits and get the compensation I deserve and need?
The answer is simple. Call James Harris Law, the experienced, trusted law firm that can get you significant compensation while protecting all your VA benefits. We're already fighting for hundreds of Marines, families, and civilians who drank Camp Lejeune water. But if you miss the deadline, you could forever lose your right to the justice you deserve. So call our Camp Lejeune legal helpline now. Now may be your last chance to receive full compensation. Don't delay. Call 800-320-7171. 800-320-7171. 800-320-7171.
A Mexican immigration agency chief is to be charged in connection with a deadly fire.
The decision to file charges against Francisco Garduno, the head of Mexico's National Immigration Institute, was announced late Tuesday by the Federal Attorney General's office. He'll face criminal charges in a fire that killed 40 migrants in Ciudad Juarez last month. Anger initially focused on 2 guards who were seen fleeing the March 27 fire without unlocking the cell door. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
China says recent air and sea drills simulating an encirclement of Taiwan were intended as a serious warning to pro-independence politicians on the self-governing island and their foreign supporters. Beijing says that 3 days of air and sea exercises were a response to recent provocations and were necessary to safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity. News and analysis, townhall.com. One European country having a terrible time with vandalism launched a crackdown.
Italy will push for stiff 5-figure fines on vandals who damage monuments or other cultural sites.
The government approved legislation championed by the culture minister that would impose fines as high as $65,000 against such vandals. Culture Minister Gennaro Sangiuliano said that it recently cost the government $44,000 to clean the facade of the 15th century Palazzo Madama, which is home to the Italian Senate, after it was vandalized recently. Just days ago, climate change activists dumped black dye into the waters of a monumental fountain sculpted by Bernini at the foot of the Spanish Steps. Keith Peters reporting.
A huge smoky fire in an old factory building has forced people from their homes in Richmond, Indiana. Authorities say the smoke is toxic. People should avoid breathing it to the extent possible. More on these stories at townhall.com. It took a panicked run on a major bank to lead to the second biggest bank failure in U.S. history. And Moody's just downgraded the entire U.S. banking system from stable to negative. Just a reminder why many people diversify their portfolios with something tangible, something that doesn't need bailing out, something that can't vanish into thin air. Learn the truth in Swiss America's shocking report, The Secret War on Cash. This all-out war against cash is a war against the Constitution, against all freedom-loving Americans. You must read The Secret War on Cash. Get your free copy by calling or texting 800-630-1495. That's 800-630-1495. This all-out war on cash, digital forms of currency too, is growing daily. So please get and read The Secret War on Cash, free to Salem listeners by calling or texting now at 800-630-1495. Make sure you mention Salem when you call or text 800-630-1495.
What aren't we being told about the COVID-19 scenario, about covert climate engineering operations that are wreaking havoc with weather all over the world, about the totality of unfolding and accelerating global environmental collapse? If you're willing to face and investigate shocking, verifiable realities that mainstream media sources and their distract and divide talking heads will never tell you, tune into the commercial-free, non-political Global Alert News Hour, Sunday, 4 p.m. on AM 860, The Answer. This is Dane Wigington from geodreamwatch.org.
Streaming at 860amtheanswer.com. iHeart, TuneIn, and the Odyssey app. This is 860 AM, The Answer.
This is your source for breaking news and what to make of it all. This is the Mike Gallagher Show.
And I'll tell you, people were crying. People that work there, professionally work there, they were actually crying. They said, I'm sorry.
I loved him as a governor. I said if I lived in Florida, I'd be voting for Ron DeSantis, but I don't trust him on the world stage.
Alvin Bragg said that Jim Jordan needs to stay in his lane. Who does Alvin Bragg think he is?
Gavin Newsom is yelling about Ron DeSantis down in Florida. Florida has added 800,000 people.
Now, from the ReliefFactor.com studios, here's Mike Gallagher.
For years I've told you that the bigger threat to this country isn't loony leftists and the wild-eyed progressives and Democrats who are wanting to upend our country. It's Republicans who just get beaten down by the left. That's the goal, of course. The left's goal is to beat us down, to beat us into submission. People are afraid to push back. People are afraid to speak out. People are terrified of what the vicious left is capable of doing. We had a horrific mass shooting this week in Louisville, Kentucky. Right away, the Democrats started calling for gun control, red flag laws. There's not a red flag law that apparently could have prevented it. The family broke its silence, the family of the shooter, and they said there was nothing he was exhibiting that could have given anybody any indication that he was capable of such an act. How many times do you hear that? You think the family of that little monster who went in and killed those parishioners at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston knew that he was going to go in and kill a bunch of black people in Mother Emanuel Church? I mean, it's such a, these acts of, these mass shootings are such heinous, reprehensible acts. They are completely unpredictable. I mean, I guess there's cases where somebody says, someday I'm going to kill everybody in a bank. And they say it for months and months. I mean, if they say it, well, if somebody in your life says they're going to shoot somebody, pay attention. But there's no red flag law. The left loves red flag laws. You know why the left loves red flag laws? It gives them more control and more power over Americans. They crave it. Look at the end of COVID, the pandemic, the emergency. Biden reluctantly signed it this week. There was no celebration. You know why? The Democrats hate giving that power up. We know why. So, a red flag law where you can turn somebody in to the authorities because they own a gun and you don't like them, or you've got some beef with them, or you say they're fighting through depression or loneliness or anxiety, you better go investigate them. And before you know it, we've got the government confiscating guns from law-abiding citizens. That's the big fear behind red flag laws. And it's realistic to have that fear. That's a reasonable concern. Well, evidently, the Republican governor of Tennessee didn't get the memo about those concerns. Governor Bill Lee is calling on Tennessee's Republican majority legislature to pass a red flag law in Tennessee. This comes 2 weeks after 3 children and 3 adults were murdered at the Covenant School and Church in Nashville. So Governor Lee, a Republican, decides, yeah, time for red flag laws. His executive order creates a 72-hour period for any new criminal activity and court mental health information to be reported on the Tennessee Instant Check system. Court mental health information. What does that mean? Is that depression? Does that mean you have some anxiety? Does that mean you're in a bitter divorce with your wife and she wants to make your life miserable? So she goes running to the authorities and says you're depressed and anxious and you shouldn't have a gun? What does that mean? Under Lee's order, again, a Republican governor, under his order, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation is required to tell his office and the General Assembly within 2 months of any barriers to complete, accurate, and timely reporting of information that is accessible. Red flag laws are currently on the books in 19 states, including here in Florida, including Indiana. And it specifically targets anyone who is deemed to have mental health issues and allows the courts to issue an order for law enforcement to confiscate weapons from those ruled to be at risk. The 28-year-old Covenant school shooter was receiving treatment for an emotional disorder, according to Nashville police. I mean, this shreds the Second Amendment. This shreds due process. We don't have due process in America. It's gone. Ask some of the people who are in the jail over January 6th about due process. Ask the families of those who are still incarcerated over the events of January 6th. Just 2 years ago. They're still rotting in jail. Many of them awaiting pre-trial detention. They're in pre-trial detention. Yeah, right. Isn't that convenient? You know what that means? It means we've shredded the Constitution because you're going to make an example out of them. They're not entitled to due process. My gosh, we got to get this country back. We have got to get this country back. 1-800-655-MIKE. Incidentally, Lee is not, the governor of Tennessee isn't all misguided. Earlier this month, he also proposed a plan to place an armed school resource officer in every public school and provide funding for private schools to hire armed guards. So, you know, he's 1 for 1 red flag laws ought to be a non-free Constitution-loving America in this country.